Good morning, folks. I'm Dan. We're back working on the feed lever assembly for the production cross slide. I'd previously built the handle, and I'd already shown that in a previous video. We've taken a link, and I've went ahead and sandblasted it and powder coated it, and we've got bushings in it now, so it's ready to go on. This is the link that originally came off of a horizontal countershaft assembly for the 10-inch lathe, and we previously talked about that a little bit. It's an S7-79 is their number on it. They use these on the lathe, the shaper, and I don't believe they're on the milling machine, although they may have an application there. So this is another one of those parts that Atlas used across the board. They used a different bushing in them depending on the application, but this is the same bushing that would have been used on the lathe. I've replaced it with a bronze bushing that's got a smaller shoulder on the outside. It doesn't have the big flange on the outside like the original would have, but in reality it doesn't make any difference. The way this goes together is this side of it, or the smaller end, will hook onto the lathe apron, and it's done with a L angle basically that I'm making out of inch square stock. It's going to be steel stock. I'll set it up in the mill, square it up, face it off, and it'll have a cutout in it, so it's like an L. And this is one of the parts I've got to make. I've only got 3 parts left to make for this assembly. One of them will be the 3/8 shaft that goes in and controls the apron, or controls the cross slide, production cross slide going back and forth. One end of it will have a Acme thread on it that goes into the original cross feed nut, and I'm going to turn that, and I don't know exactly what the length is. The other length of it is 3/8 24, and it will go into this adjustment, which will come out of the apron, be threaded 3/8 24 on this end, and it'll have a slot with a cross pin to hold it, and that will mount onto the handle up here, and that will be our pivot point back and forth. So that's the way that'll go together. On the other end of this link, it had a 3/8 inside bushing and 1/2 inch outside bushing. Now I've turned a bushing to match this, and the way it will mount is it sets on just like that, and then it's a pivot point. So I don't know how they originally had it set up from Atlas. I'm assuming it's the same way, but I made the bushing solid so it mounted solid into the link, and then it pivots on the outside on that linkage. That to me seemed like the best way to accommodate the movement of it and minimize wear and everything. So I've left enough space. I'll probably put a brass wear washer in the middle, which it didn't originally have. Atlas calls for the bolt going through this side with a washer underneath it that would bear on there, going all the way through with a nut on the other side to lock it, just so it's a snug assembly, but it has to pivot there, so we want some movement there. The other side calls for the bolt going through from this side, washer in between it and the little L angle that mounts to the apron. The part going into the L angle will be a 3/8 coarse thread that goes through, and these are all coarse thread fasteners with the exception of the one that goes into the adjustment that comes out of the cross slide to control the cross slide back and forth, and it's a 3/8 fine thread, or 3/8 24. So anyway, what I'm going to do is, the first thing is we'll go ahead, I'll set this up in the lathe, we'll square it all up. We're going to drill it and tap it 3/8 24 through one end. Then we'll take it over to the mill. We'll just cut our slot for the hand lever to go through, and then we'll cross drill it, and probably cross drill it and thread one side for 3/8 24 and countersink the other side for probably a countersunk Allen head is probably what I'll put back in there. Anyway, it doesn't really matter what we use as a fastener, just so we fasten it. Originally it was a pin that went through that was knurled on one end and just was pressed in there, which was the way Atlas did a lot of things. So I'm not going to show most of that machining. It's all standard machining. If anything crops up that really is of interest, well, I will show a little bit of clip of it. But the next thing we'll have to do is disassemble the cross slide again off of the lathe so that we can fit the length of the rod that goes through and adjust for our linkage, so our handle sits in a vertical position when the cross slide assembly itself is in its, we'll call it, a neutral position in between. So anyway, we'll get some of that done, and we'll bring you back when we've got something to show you. Machined a few parts here. We had our link here, and we had our handle done. Now this is the mounting bracket that mounts onto the apron, and it mounts onto onto the link here and mounts in an existing hole that's already, we replace a bolt in the apron that we replace it with a longer bolt to accommodate this, and it hooks right in. I've made a couple of changes. I put a lock nut on this side. They just call for a standard nut, but I put a nylock on there. And this is our piece that we'll screw onto our feed screw. And it's tap 3/8 24. I still have to build the screw that fits this one. For right now, I'm going to set it in place because it is a 3/8 24 on the hand wheel, or on the manual screw that's on there now. So I'm going to set it in place just to check out the fit of it and everything. We'll take a quick look at that, and then maybe tomorrow I will go ahead and build that screw. I anticipated getting it done today, but I'm about done for the day. All this will have to be polished out, the edges radiused on these parts and that type of thing. And I've got to open up a little more clearance. This is a little bit tight on here. But otherwise, everything's looking pretty good. So let's take a look at how this is going to fit on. All right, here we are with the lathe. The first thing we want to put in place is this little bracket, and it sits right there. It's where it's going to go. And when after we final fit everything, why then we'll take it apart. Part of this we're going to re-blue, part of it we're going to powder coat. But let's see if we can't get this part in. And we're replacing this bolt with they call for a 1-inch bolt. Let's see how long the one that's actually in there. Yeah, that looks like a 3/4 inch. So I think we'll go ahead and use their star lock washer for now. It will set down in there like that. Once those edges are all radiused, I think that part will probably powder coat. We'll have to build this screw yet, but this should thread right on there. Like that. Now this is not in the right position, but it'll at least give us an idea of what's going on. There's our bolt goes in this side. There's a washer in between, and it will screw right onto there. Hopefully, if we left enough clearance. If we didn't, we'll be building a new piece, and we may very well be doing that. That looks like it's a little bit too close. Without the washer, we may have clearance, maybe. Set in there, that will go there. Yeah, we'll be able to accommodate that. That will work. We've got pretty good alignment there going up and down. I may go back and slot this bracket just a little bit, just so this L angle can float over. I thought I had it pretty close, and it is pretty well aligned. Actually, it's very well aligned. Everything lines up just right there with the right feeds bracket in there. Why, that will run from stop to stop just like it's supposed to. Now we've only got limited use because we're just using the end play that's in the screw. So yeah, that looks pretty good. We'll build us a new lead screw tomorrow, or a new screw across there tomorrow, and we'll loosen up the tolerances a little bit on these. They're a little bit tight through this bracket when you tighten down the Allen head and stuff like that. Things like that. But all in all, there's another part of it. That looks pretty good. If you find these videos helpful and you haven't already, you might want to hit that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up if you like what we've done here. And any comments or suggestions, leave them in the comment section below. And thanks for taking the time to watch.